because if you can see the path ahead of you, forewarned is forearmed. You're prepared. It's not going to be as easy as you think. It is simple, but it's not going to be as easy as you think. But if I can be honest with you and give you awareness, give you vision, show you what's coming up, the likelihood that you get to where I am, where UM is, basically where you want to be, is significantly higher. Make sense? So point A, point B, I've done that. I've already been there. A lot of it sucked. But I'm going to allow you to take a bird's eye view of what I went through, because the most important thing for you to realize is there is more that you can learn by going back through someone's journey and seeing what they went through than if you just look at me or UM and see what we're doing now and just try and copy what we're doing now. Agreed? True? False? Who here, put your hand up if you would like to have the net worth of someone like Elon Musk? Some of you hesitant, don't like money. So, what would happen if you just copied what Elon Musk was doing today? Yeah, you just go broke, guys. If you tried to copy the actions, the behaviors, the thought process that he has now, you won't get anywhere. You have to go all the way back through what he went through and see what he went through. But the beautiful thing is that to get to who he became, you don't have to go through what he went through. You just have to know what the changes are. And that's why we have courses, mentors. That's why you're here today, so that you don't have to go through as much of the shit that I went through. Everybody, it's very intimidating having all of you looking at me like this, by the way. So, especially Rachel. Rachel's like this. So, all right, write down the word inevitable. What does that mean?
It's going to happen
no matter what? One at a time. No matter what? Yep. Anybody else? Benton? For sure. Rachel?
I mean, like there's nothing that can do to stop it.
Can't be stopped. That's a good one. Can't be stopped. Unreasonable for it to not happen. Write down 1, 2, or 3 things that need to happen for something to become inevitable. All right, someone stand up and give one of your answers. Stand up. Practice. Yeah, practice. Somebody else stand up.
Massive action.
Massive action. This is a test, by the way, guys, because I wanted to see how quickly you stand up. Consistency. Yep. Beliefs. Never quit. Faith. Time. What do you mean by time? Okay, so time has to pass. Yeah, okay.
Groundwork has to be prepared.
Groundwork, yep. That's a great answer.
I put working on the right things for an extended period of time.
The right things have to be worked on. Yep, all great answers. Yeah? Now, I want you to write down, so we've done that, what things in your life, 5 years from now, do you want to be inevitable? You can write 1 thing, 2 things, 3, 4, 5, just bullet points. Who here wants being able to stay in a hotel like this whenever the fuck you want to be inevitable? Daniel, no. Daniel likes Airbnb. A steak here. Who has an answer, something that you want to be inevitable? You don't have to stand up this time. Oh, sorry, Riyadh?
Fly private.
Fly private. Private jet, beautiful. Guys, do you know how much that is, by the way?
Yeah. Like 60 grand for only 60 grand.
60 grand for what type of trip? To fly from here to Australia? For you?
That's probably 20, 30.
Yeah, like 70, 80 grand just for a few hours. Anybody got anything outside of travel?
Successful brand.
A brand, beautiful. Why is that important to you?
Something I've always wanted. I look around me and I know that the most successful things that are timeless, long-lasting, like Rolex, Apple, they're brands. And I want to build something that can leave a stamp on the world, but also just something that I guess I could be proud of myself for accomplishing.
Nice. Because of its timelessness, because it's going to outlast you, that makes you feel proud.
The generation I can pass it down.
It's beautiful, beautiful. Who else has something different? Not travel, not businessy or brand, but something else?
My legacy. So for me, both my parents kind of like more nothing's really come from the name. So my goal is to kind of like break that a bit, have children, and actually like create like a legacy with my name.
Yeah.
Continue on past me.
That's beautiful. Do you know kind of what you want to do to create that legacy? Because you could create a clothing brand, you could create a,
Yeah.
could become a professional actor and people know your surname, so.
Yeah, it stems across. So right now, like I pay for pretty much most of my mum's side living. I want to stem that across my dad's as well. That's like the beginning point, like the foundations.
Yeah.
We know where I want to be on that. But yeah, and then past that point, I do a lot of coaching and things. That's actually what fulfills me, but I don't feel like I'm grounded or good enough skill-wise yet to make that into like, oh, this is my career. So I think across the point, that would be that, so I can have an impact on like other people. And then when it comes to my children, they follow like a similar suit.
Beautiful. One more, guys. You know the answer.
Yes, so for me, it's like a speaker that's booked out like 6 to 12 months in advance, at least 25,000.
This is you. This is what you want.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I interviewed this lady a couple of years ago, and that was what she did, and I was like, oh my god, this is so
Come on then.
cool.
There you go. That's beautiful. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I lived a lot of life, have a lot to share.
So guys, I have one job, which is to help you take those things that you've written down, the ones that were spoken out loud and the ones that weren't, and help you make those things inevitable. That is the only purpose of me being here. It's not for me. It's for you to take the things that you've written down and make them inevitable. Now, because we have, in fact, that's in a slide in a minute. I have to give you a disclaimer in a minute for the FTC, so we'll get to that. But to do that, to make that inevitable for you in the future, remember the diagram path, point A to point B, we have to go all the way back into the past to go back to the future. So that's me and UM going back to the future. So. Okay, so that's the journey that we're going on for this first presentation. Oh, here's the disclaimer. So I'm going to read this out. It's ridiculous, but we all know that some people make more money than other people. True or false?
Yes.
And the reason that some people make more money and some people make less is because of the things that you do or the things that you don't do. So all of these things that I want to help you make inevitable, those are the things that I want to happen. But because we have the FTC, I have to say, but you have to understand and be an adult that if you don't do the work the way that you're supposed to do the work, then you're not going to get the same results as me. Fair? So, making things inevitable. If you're making notes, which you should be, not on your phone, you're going to have breakthrough moments, lessons, ahas, shifts, the transition points that allow you to make those things inevitable. Everyone clear so far on the framing of the presentation? You've written down things that you want to be inevitable. My job is to make those things happen as best as I can. To do that, we're going back to the past, going all the way back through my journey so that you can see the breakthrough moments that were the keys to me unlocking inevitability in my life for some of the things that we are now experiencing, for example, being here. So if you come with me on this journey for the next couple of hours, at least for this first presentation, I'm trying to compress 7 years of these breakthroughs into the eye at the top of the pyramid that you can now see ahead in about 2 hours. We'll see if we get through it all. All right, so, by the way, breakthrough moments, it says lessons, aha, shifts. What's the difference between a breakthrough moment or a breakthrough and a lesson, or a shift and a lesson?
Three inevitabilities in the next 5 years. Like I started down, like, and then everybody started spouting them off. I'm like, I don't even know. And I just
Don't know as in you don't know if you actually want those things, or what do you mean?
that and I was thinking of the things that other people called out. I was like, do I want it? Do I want it? Yes, I do want it. And then it was just like, and then I just got in my head and I was just like, holy shit, dude! Like you don't even know
Yeah.
where the fuck you want to go. So I wrote down. I can't even think of 3 things that are inevitable.
Very interesting. Yep.
That's
We'll cover that.
Yeah.
We'll cover that. But that's very important. For any of you that were like, I don't even know, you're going to get stuck at breakthrough 1. But that's why we're here. Difference between a breakthrough and a lesson, guys?
A breakthrough is happening, a lesson's will happen.
No?
A breakthrough is in the moment, a lesson's like when you're looking back, reflection.
A lesson, guys, is just theory. I can teach you a lesson, but nothing changes. I'm not here to teach you lessons. I'm here to show you the lessons so that you have breakthrough moments. Key distinction. Just me educating you is going to do nothing. So you want to draw and 7 line graphs going up in height. You want to draw that. All right, everybody got that? Where's yours? No, but it's got to be going higher. Like show like that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it's progressive. That's the diagram, and that's what I call the model of transformation, the one that was on the previous slide that you couldn't see. Okay, the model of transformation. So number 1, opportunity. Question for you guys, why do people miss opportunities? Just shout it out. Huh?
They don't have the level of awareness.
Beautiful, beautiful. They don't have awareness. They're not looking. Complacent, yeah. Huh? Scared? Beautiful.
They don't have the skill to accomplish it.
Don't have the skills.
Maybe miss like they acknowledge.
So if I handed you an opportunity,
and I know that it's an opportunity.
maybe.
And I
If I just hand you an opportunity and you just don't do anything with it, why not? Why would that happen? Second question, why do people become afraid of something?
Because they don't believe in themselves.
Don't believe in themselves? Why don't they believe in themselves?
Because they haven't done it before.
Haven't done it before, so what are they missing?
Evidence.
Evidence, yes, a good answer, yeah. Anybody else? Who said that? Was that you? I'm looking at you and your mouth's not moving, and I'm like, I swear you said something. Don't have the skill set, yeah? Huh? Lack of certainty, yep.
A limiting belief.
Limiting beliefs. If we were to generalize all of those things that you're saying, guys, no experience, wrong beliefs, what are those? Why do people become afraid of something? Why do people miss opportunities? Same answer. If I give you an opportunity and you don't have the tools or the resources to do something with it, you're going to miss it. Or if I give you something to do and you're afraid of it, it's because you don't have the tools or the resources. Agreed?
Yes.
So fear and opportunity are both opposite extremes of the same thing, which is you don't have the tools, you don't have the resources to get the outcome that you want. For example, a resource is the right belief. A resource is awareness. You don't even know that it's an opportunity. This was me in January 2020 on a tiny little island with 100,000 people. No inspiration, no tools and resources, whether we call that beliefs or a role model. And I was a combination between frustrated but also sedated. I just was like just going through the motions. Like Daniel said, I wasn't even aware. I was like asleep, just going through my life. And like the island here where it says help, the environment that I was in was just deprived of tools and resources. Now, you might be thinking, you're just being a victim, Josh. In general, I was just in the wrong environment, okay? There were probably opportunities there, but I didn't feel like I had the resources. That was where I lived.
Nice.
In 2020. That was not my furniture, by the way, but that was my actual studio. That is it. Through that door there at the top was the exit and a bathroom. There was no other room. That was the shithole that I lived in.
Where was this?
In a tiny island off the coast of the UK. So I had a kitchenette, had a bed, and so what I would do is I'd stand roughly here, and if I faced this direction, I was in the kitchen. If I faced this direction, I had my one window. If I faced this direction, I was going to bed, but it was just one room. Carpet stunk. Outside the one window there was a back of a giant department store, and every morning you'd hear a lorry reversing and unloading all the rubbish or unloading all of the deliveries. Worst experience ever. I wanted you to see that. I didn't always live how I live now. And I went through, that's not all of them, more than 20 different jobs trying to find my way. Graphic designer, worked in a car shop, architectural assistant, worked at a language school, dressed up as Superman, takeaway delivery driver, labor on a building site, solar panel installer, window fitter, security in a nightclub, firefighter, office assistant, marshal on an ice rink, and putting in data for this amount of money an hour. Okay, so I had no source of income, relatively speaking, and I lived in a shithole. All right? And thinking that I was doing the right thing, I took on 4 different jobs. So Monday to Friday during the day, I worked in an office. Monday to Thursday during the night, I delivered fish and chips, which is a UK dish. Saturday and Sunday, I'd be on a building site in the day, and Friday to Sunday in the night, that was me as a security guard sitting on the pole in a nightclub. So I worked 80 hours a week for $1,500. 80 hours a week for $1,500 a month. Yeah. Good. I should have clarified that. How are we all feeling? You feel sad for me? No, I'm just kidding. Knowing that it was time to make a change, I put these pictures up on the wall. Anybody spot the pattern between these goals? A motorbike, a tiny house, that's a house on a trailer with a car pulling it along, and an airplane. That was my goals. And that's the wall on this wall here. Okay?
They all symbolize freedom.
You wanted to escape. You wanted to escape.
I just wanted to get the fuck away from there. Either in a house on wheels, or on a motorbike, or in an airplane. And at the time, I didn't realize this connection. I was just like, I just really want a tiny house, a motorbike, or an airplane. But looking back, I'm like, I just wanted to get away. Escape. I wanted to break free. So I thought I'll just read my way out of it. I bought all of these books. I spent everything that I had on books and courses. I was making $1,500 a month. My rent for and those are the pictures, by the way, behind the books. The rent for my apartment was $500 a month. Probably spent another $200, $300, $400 on gym, food, whatever. And I spent the remaining somewhere up to $1,000 every month on courses and books, thinking that that would get me out of the situation. It didn't. And getting frustrated, I started taking drugs, drinking alcohol, going partying every weekend, because whilst I was working these 4 jobs for $1,500 a month, working 80 hours, trying to read my way out of it whenever I could, I fell into not exactly depression, but pretty close, just drowning my sorrows out with, I'm not going to name the drug, but drugs and alcohol. Okay, so that was me. I did that for 7 years, 2 months, and 18 days. From 19 to 26. 4 jobs, $1,500 a month, job after job after job, trying to try different jobs, reading, doing drugs. And then I got an email from one of the courses that I'd paid for. we're starting on a massive project and we're hiring. Okay? So I applied for the job, not because I was going to make any money, because this was a customer service job, just answering emails, but because this company, which I've blurred out, was run by undergrad, no, not the lady over there, the mask up there was run by the undergrad mentor and his business partners. And I'd seen the course because I bought it, and I was like, man, these guys are top 0.0000001% people. I'll go and eat shit, not literally, but I'll go and eat shit to get my foot in the door, to get one step closer. So I did that. 8 months later, I was now working 5 jobs, still had my 4 jobs, had my new job as the customer support person, stopped doing drugs, stopped drinking alcohol, started waking up at 5:30 in the morning and going cycling. That was before the sun had risen up. And I did that for 8 months later. I did that for 8 months. So that's section 1. So write down a time in your life where you know that you were investing time into something that was never going to get you where you wanted to go. Just bullet points. What was going on? What was happening?
Would it be now or then?
In the past. In the past. Yeah. And then once you know what that time was in your life, why do you think that was happening? Why were you not moving forward, even if you were investing time and effort and money? Why was that not happening? Time in your life where you were stuck and it took you way too long to realize that you were stuck.
When you say investing your time, I'm thinking of a time where I wasn't really investing in anything. I was just trying to block everything out. So is that...
Were you working a job?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it getting you somewhere? No. So that's an example. Anybody else got an example?
Fucking video games.
Oh, massive. Massive. How many hours were you playing video games?
Literally wake up early to play certain video games. I would be motivated to wake up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. to play video games. You wouldn't be able to wake me up out of bed for anything else.
Yeah. You got one?
Something similar to yours. Cafe Monday to Friday, and then bar nightclub Fridays 20.
So just sitting in cafes?
Cafe all-rounder, and then bar nightclub 7 days a week.
Were you working in the cafe?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then COVID, I got really sick because I burnt out. Didn't get COVID, but like just crashed with a massive flu.
Yeah. So most of us have done this, guys. Why did you not progress? Why were you not progressing, guys? You weren't progressing because the environment that you were in, your ecosystem, was just the wrong place. Could have been the job, could have been glued to the television and the video games. You were just in completely the wrong environment. So the first thing that I want you to realize is that being in the wrong environment happens, someone said it right in the beginning, awareness, because you're unconscious. You're not even aware that you're in the wrong environment. Not awake and aware of and responding to one's environment. I'm in the wrong environment, but I'm not even aware and responding to the fact I'm in the wrong environment. I did that for 7 years. And whilst this is actually talking about unconscious as in the mind, pretty interesting that the word used is inaccessible. In other words, the things that you want are inaccessible because you're unconscious. I wanted to hit those goals, I wanted to make more money, I wanted to be in a different place, but it was inaccessible because I was not even conscious or awake or aware to respond to my incorrect environment. Everyone following along? Okay. Step 1, model of transformation, breaking free. You got to get out of the wrong bullshit environments. I did that. I started working the 5th job. I was still making $1,500 a month-ish. I was making a couple of $100 extra a week from the new job, but negligible. So that's part 1, breaking free. Number 2, commitment. Why does someone become committed to something? And what does commitment do? Go for it. Breaking point? Breaking point, yep. And then what does the commitment do? Builds discipline?
Yeah, force them into action.
By the way, whenever there's a question like this, you should be writing something down with like the blue word above, because we're going to come back to these later. So why does someone become committed to something? And then when they do become committed to something, what does that actually do? Let me tell you a story. So I've been 8 months into this new customer support job for the company that had top 0.0001% founders. But I was still making like $1,800 a month. Nothing had really changed. But I had broken free. I was now in an environment around top 0.0001% businessmen. So what happened next? So I went on a date with a girl. Some of you probably heard this story. And she was really cool. She was really attractive, had great sex. She was really intelligent. And we spent 3-4 days in London together. And I thought, this is great. This is going somewhere. Got my 5 jobs. Surely I can swing this. And at the end of the 3-4 days in London, she asked me a weird question, which was, how much money do you make? I thought, that's bit personal, isn't it? No, I didn't think that, but I just thought, that's weird. So I said, why do you ask? And she said, well, can you just tell me? I said, okay, I make somewhere around about $1,500 a month. And she kind of had a blank face for a second. And she said, okay, what's your plan to make more money? I was like, what do you mean? I said, I didn't realize I needed a plan. Thought I'm just going to keep going through my 5 jobs, and one day I'll be further ahead. I'm working for this great company now. I've got my customer support job for the brilliant founders. She wasn't very impressed with that response. She said, listen, had a great time with you, but I come from a very rich family, and I would like a future. If I'm going to date a guy, it's for something serious. And you don't have a plan, which basically means if I were to roll the dice on where you're going to be in a year's time, where you're going to be in 2 years' time, where you're going to be in 5 years' time, it's basically going to be just the same place you're at now, right? Nothing's going to change. Even though I was now in my new environment around the founders, that didn't change anything. She didn't care about that. And she cut the story with basically saying, our little romance in London, by basically saying, girls like me just don't date guys like you. What do you think happened after that? Where did the fire first get directed? Where do you think the fire first got directed, Rachel? No. This is PG rated, Rachel, so we have to put another disclaimer on the video. So. No, my fire was first directed at every possible insult that I could call the girl. Problems out there, problems not me. I'm working 5 jobs. I've stopped doing drugs. She's just an asshole. She's just a gold digger. And I blamed everything but myself. I even went on a walk with my friend the next day, and he sat there listening to me whinging about what an asshole she was, and he didn't really say anything, but he just listened. A couple of days later, I watched a video by Jordan Peterson, and it was on how you need to take responsibility for your own life. And one day, someone around you, close family member, is going to pass away. And when they pass away, everybody else around you is going to be falling apart. And you can either be another person that's falling apart, or you can be the one person that's got your shit together that everybody else is now leaning on as the rock. And coincidentally, I watched that video at the exact time that I had this experience, and I said, you know what? Why should she date a guy like me that doesn't have any money, doesn't have a future, doesn't have a plan, and have a family where the children are going to go to a shit school, not have the opportunities that they want because I haven't got my shit together? And I started looking inside and taking ownership, and for me, that mirror was a girl rejecting me, pretty bluntly as well. And so I said, I'm going to get rich. There was no, I'm going to try. There was no, I'm just going to see what happens with my 5 jobs. I am going to get rich. Thoughts? Commitment? Very next day, I get a phone call from the boss. This is not the phone call, this is the message after it. And the boss says, you want to learn sales? I said, how much am I going to make? He said, it's commission, you can make as much as you want. I said, yeah. I'm going to get rich. That's me. Anybody know whose voice is in this? UM. So that's how I met UM. Commitment, the state or quality of being dedicated to a cause or an activity, an engagement or an obligation that restricts your freedom of action. Restriction. Everything that I could have been, which was a nobody basically, now snapped into, I am going to get rich. Restricting all of my thoughts and feelings and ideas and desires into one thing. All because, for me, I had that girl telling me, you're not good enough. And she was right. Anybody know what that is? King Arthur. If you don't know the story, long story short, the only person that's going to ever be able to pull the sword out of the stone is the person that is deserving. Not the person that's the strongest, not the person that's working the hardest, not the person that's the most intelligent, not the person that can figure out some way to mathematically leverage the sword out of the stone, but the person that actually needs to. Anybody know who that is? Yeah. You tell the story then. Who's that?
He's a motivational speaker.
Yep. What's his most famous speech?
You gotta want it as bad as you breathe.
Yeah. When the student is ready, the teacher or the opportunity appears. True or false? True. False. When the student is ready, the opportunity will appear.
Well, it can only appear when it's ready, but it doesn't mean that.
Was I ready to make more money for the 7 years, 2 months, and 18 days?
The student already wanted it.
The teacher appears, the opportunity appears when the student is committed. Not when you're ready, guys. Everybody's ready to be handed a free fucking handout. What happened here? When the student is committed, the teacher or the opportunity appears. So Eric Thomas co-developed a program called The Advantage at Michigan State University, which was for Latinos and Black Americans that may have potentially ended up in the wrong places. And he became what's known as the hip-hop preacher, which I think is pretty cool. And he had a speech, just like you said, where he says, to quote, "When you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. Not when you want to succeed because you're ready to succeed." Anybody know how many days you can go without eating? A month. Anybody know how many days you can go without drinking water? How long can you go without breathing? Moments, and then you're dead. If I had wanted to get rich as bad as I wanted my next plate of food, would have never happened. I said I'm going to get rich with the same level of drive that was like, I will die if I don't breathe this. It was that serious. There was no half-assing. Now, the best way I can describe this to you is this. Anybody know what that is? Specifically the material? Concrete. Cement, concrete. What's happening to that concrete right now? It's what? Yeah, after the smoothing. Then what? What's the technical term for that? Curing or setting. Concrete setting. The raw material of the concrete is pretty useless if you're trying to build a walkway, you're trying to build a bridge or whatever you're trying to walk on until it sets. If you try standing on that right now, you're just going to sink into it. The raw material was the opportunity of me being in the online company around but the concrete was still wet until I said I'm going to get rich. And then a chemical reaction happened, going into some woo-woo stuff here, and the concrete started setting. So I want you to think from now moving forward, when you think about commitment, the commitment is the chemical reaction that happens to the raw materials that are in your life that allows you to now walk on them. No commitment, just soggy raw materials that have no benefit to you moving through the world. No matter how great or high quality the raw material was, no commitment, no use. Make sense? Setting concrete. The hardening of the concrete through the transformation of minerals. Blah, 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 blah. Creates a chemical reaction which changes the composition. The composition of the raw materials in your life is not what determines whether they're useful or not. That's why many people have opportunities, the question I asked in the beginning, and they just waste them. They don't even do anything with them. Opportunity without the hardening, the chemical reaction, the change in the composition is equivalent to no opportunity. Any questions? Following along? Everybody awake? Commitment happens when you want something as bad as you want to breathe, and it turns the raw materials of opportunity into something you can actually now start to walk on. That's me. I said that. So let's practice. Write down a time in your life when you had an opportunity, but you did not have commitment, and therefore you lost the opportunity. Quick. Once you got one, stand up, shout it out. Time in your life when you had an opportunity, but you did not have commitment, and therefore you couldn't walk the opportunity. Is this making sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how much opportunity you have, or you won't even see the opportunity if it's staring you in the fucking face until you make the commitment. Anybody got an example of a time in your life? Go for it.
Yeah, real estate investment at the age of 21, great opportunity.
What was the opportunity?
Getting a home as an investment property.
So you had cash and you were going to buy one? Or?
I didn't have cash, I was getting a loan.
A loan, okay.
But
Yep.
I had the opportunity, so that was the opportunity.
Okay. And what happened?
I did make a purchase and everything, but I didn't manage the property that I could have.
And then what happened?
Loss of revenue and a bankruptcy at the age of 24.
Wow.
Yeah.
Got it. Anybody else? Go for it.
Yeah, back in 2022, back in my acting days, I had an audition for J.J. Abrams.
Okay.
If you guys don't know who that is, he did all the Star Wars movies, the latest
Oh,
ones.
wow.
And the casting director was Nina Gold. If you don't know her, Game of Thrones. She
Okay.
casts all these actors. I just wasn't committed enough and didn't have the skill enough to do my best.
And so did you go, but you just didn't do your best, or you didn't
No,
go?
I just knew I didn't do my best when I sent the audition tape in.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, I need to get better.
Go ahead. Second change, a sword to die on. We had the sword, Excalibur. What happens when you don't get any oxygen and breathe, guys? You die. You don't get hungry or thirsty when you have no oxygen, you die. When I decided I want to get rich, it was like, I'm going to die if this doesn't happen. That was how I felt.
Question about commitment. Would you say you have to go through a traumatic event when you lose something in order to be committed?
You don't have to go through it, but you have to choose something to go through. In other words, you have to perceive the imagination of, if I could have this and I forfeit the opportunity, how am I going to feel? You're essentially playing a virtual reality simulation in your brain. If you don't have something visceral, though, then you're not going to have commitment. So it's like when people have seen, you've got that poster, 40,000 or 4,000 dots, or very, very famous people in the past have used what's called a memento mori. Anybody know what that is?
Remember you died.
A little token. Shakespeare supposedly used to write with a skull on his desk to remind him, you're going to die. So if he doesn't write, if he doesn't, or as Wayne Dyer said, if he dies with his music still in him, or his creativity still in him. So you've got to have something that to you feels like death if you do not accomplish it. Not feels like it would be nice to have. It's a, I have to have it. Okay? Is this still making sense? Good. Oh, hang on. Notice, by the way, what has happened to my, excuse the fact that there's probably an extra $400 in there from the 5th job, but negligent. What's happened to my income even though I've gone through these two things? Nothing's changed. Because in life we have things called leading indicators and lag indicators. In other words, there's something that's going to create the outcome, but there's a delay between having the outcome. Next one. What does a skill do?
Separates you.
In what way?
Just like, for example, you did better when you worked for the sales agency than 7 other closers. You were doing $1 million a month.
Yep.
So it separated you. You had
Okay.
80% close rate.
Yep. Separates me. Yep. It does what? Qualifies you. Yep.
Without the skill to do the thing.
Qualifies you.
Makes you more valuable in the marketplace.
Makes you more valuable. Think a little bit more abstract, guys. I broke free. I got a sword to die on. What happened to my income?
A skill makes you more.
Oh, that's a laser. I didn't know. So what does a skill do? To act out the goal, to act out the purpose. Be a little bit more abstract in that. What do you mean? Actualizing something. Beautiful.
You need the skill to get that something without it. It's like getting your foot in the door.
Yeah, remember the concrete, raw material, useless. Raw material that's set, still not doing anything. I got to start walking on the concrete. Just having the concrete that's now rock hard, nothing changes.
Would you say the skill too gives you, like, kind of going back to what the girl said to you, right, rejecting you? So would you say the skill maybe gives you the confidence, even like as a man, like the security that you're working towards something?
Yeah, gives you confidence, yeah.
So that's what I think about. It's like there's security, there's safety there.
Yeah.
Because I have something that no one can take away.
Beautiful, yeah.
You know?
Anybody else?
So in that example you said the walking on concrete, how does that connect to having a skill? Because I think that as you taking action more than that example.
Yep. So I was here. I'll go back a little bit. I was over here. I wanted to get over there. There's a giant chasm in front of me, or a big ditch. I want to get from here to there. Got to pour my concrete in, put my raw ingredients in. Currently, it's just soggy. If I'd have tried walking in there, I'm not going to get anywhere. Have to let it set and harden from the commitment. I'm still on the wrong side of the chasm. To get to the outcome, I need a skill, which is my ability to walk across the concrete and do that with the least amount of effort and the least amount of time. That's what the skill does. Like Ben said, actualizes all of the potential. So I got obsessed, now I'd met with cloning because he had what I wanted. Money, freedom, choices, impact, purpose. This is 1/1000th of how much I wrote out every single thing that ever said. I got extremely obsessed. Everything he said, I wrote it out. So this is a sales conversation that was one of his convos. I'm not finding the one. Why do you think that is? I'm getting bored. Why is that? I lose interest. So I'm wondering, typically why they're losing interest is because they're going on dates with women that they're not interested in. Why do you seem to be settling for those women? Blah, 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 blah. Every single thing he wrote out, he said, I wrote out. He gave me 4 calls. No training course, no videos, no manual, 4 of his sales calls. That was it. Here's 4 of my sales calls, figure it out. So I wrote those calls out until I memorized everything that he said and everything the prospect said and started internalizing the energy, the pace, the tonality, every single thing about the way he would say these things. And I went for a walk every single day for hours and hours and hours listening to these calls. I got obsessed because I knew that I'd broken free from my defective, deficient environment. I now had the commitment, but nothing has changed in my income. I need to clone something that allows me to turn the potential into actuality. This is a video of me showing all of the stuff that I've written out. And this was like my first week. Very intense. This is everything that had ever said to me, transcribed. That was how thick each of those PDFs are, each of them. And I had 3 of them. Every single thing that ever said to me, I transcribed it all. And I read through it, and I read through it, and I read through it, and I read through it. Any of you have that much notes of any of my things that I've said?
Not yet.
Well, this was like 3 weeks in.
And he wasn't your mentor, right? He was just training you.
Well, he was mentoring me in exchange for me working at the company.
Oh.
Yeah, in the beginning. And then after I started making money, I had to pay him. So, yeah. So let's practice cloning a skill. The skill is the thing that transfers your potential, now that you have the right environment and you have the commitment, into actually getting a result. What is the most important skill that you guys have cloned in your life? Who did you clone it from? What was the value that provided for you? And why did you clone it in the first place?
So sales, and I trained under Bill Walsh for a year.
Mm-hmm.
It really taught me how to challenge the hell out of people.
Yep.
Because it's Love City.
What was the process that you used to clone? Were you writing things out? Were you listening? Were you...
Going to trainings every day, listening to it, scripting it out, just trying to internalize that energy.
Yep, internalizing the energy as well as practicing it, yep. Anybody got a skill that was not sales related that they cloned? Go for it.
It's a little bit on the vague side, but it can get specific. I cloned confidence from leaders that I watched online, and particularly in public speaking.
Okay.
And the way that you just asked her, well, how? So the way that I did it was I acted it out in my mind, as well as like in front of the mirror, or just when I was going about my day, like when I was working my 9 to 5, I would just pretend to be on stage, and then use their body language and speak the powerful words they were speaking, and pretend like there was an audience there.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah. And what led to you wanting to clone that?
I think I had discovered that is what I want to do. I want to be able to. It goes more into my purpose, leading a movement of people. And the only way that I saw that happening is for me to be able to speak in front of a lot of people, to be able to move a lot of people. So I said, well, then I have to get good at this, or else I won't be able to fulfill that dream, that purpose that I have.
Why is that important to you, though, to lead people, to lead a movement? What was the sword that you chose to die on as to why that came about?
On a deeper level, for me, it definitely has a lot to do with me being proud of myself.
Okay.
Being able to
Was there a moment that you saw somebody or something happen to you that you're like, man, I got to be able to do that?
I think it started out, if I'm going deeper, it started out as me wanting to defend myself as a child.
Huh.
Defend myself in a way where I could be in a room with smart people and like actually have value. So maybe it's not so much defending, maybe it's more fitting in.
Yeah.
I think is where I'm going with it.
Was there something where you really didn't fit in and someone pushed you out of being allowed into a situation?
Yeah.
Huh. See, we've all had those moments, guys. If there's something that we really, really, really need to clone, if you want to share, what happened?
Growing up with so I'm one of 3 siblings, so 3 brothers. I was the middle child.
Okay.
So middle child is a little bit stereotypically more neglected, right?
Okay.
I can't say I was really that neglected. I wouldn't fit those shoes as much, but I would be outcasted a little bit more for my ideas and my communication style, the things that I would talk about. There wasn't a lot of interest with the people in my family with the things that I would want to talk about. Like I was always more creative, had big vision, big ideas, and everyone in my family and everyone around me was just kind of like, wow, they weren't really on that level. So
Was there a specific moment where your other 2 siblings didn't include you in something specific that you can recall?
Not really.
No.
Yeah, not.
where would you put your, on a scale of 1 to 10, as far as cloning the skill of somebody that can public speak, where would you put it? 10 being like, oh, I'm balls to the wall trying to do that.
Lately it's a 10.
Okay.
Even just a year ago, it's probably still like a 6 or 7.
Okay. What happened recently that changed it to a 10?
I just like what we're talking about, just committed to building a business, building a successful business, and part of that business is going to be, speaking to audiences, whether that's through content or
Yep.
other platforms.
Got it.
Person.
So building your business became something that was like, as bad as I want to breathe, I need to build this business. Beautiful. Anybody else? Cloning a skill? Go for it.
I'll go with, I guess, like, not too high, not too low. I just didn't even feel really.
Non-sales related.
Yeah. This is more, so basically I was going through a time when I moved to Canada, and my family made me integrate a lot of things, right?
Okay.
But they would be over this one side, I'd be on this side, right? So I had to be in a place where I was like very emotionally stable, where I don't let whatever they said like impact me on my decisions going forward. Because if you're going to, well, so I'd studied medicine. I was going to be a doctor. That was my game plan. I think I was just went to university at 17, so I was pretty young, right? So I was 24. Then when I got out, I realized this is probably not the path for me. Having that conversation with my family, my sister's a doctor, is a nurse, so she was just like, this is the wrong way, right? So I guess like playing it back, it came back to learning to love from afar and still learning to just like, I guess Vishen Lakhiani, Mind Valley.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Listening to his, like his meditations, I read
Yep.
his books, and then that's where I started to like, okay, I can just be not too high, not too low, not too low, like practicing too much. That was, I guess, like not such a
So cloning a response mechanism, like not being too reactive and just cloning to be more grounded. Beautiful. Anybody else? Someone over here said one.
Physiology.
You.
Physiology.
Ah,
I didn't
interesting.
clone it from anybody in particular. It's just more of like the concept. I guess I don't, like when I see someone driving a Bentley and they're just like spilling over their seatbelt, I'm just like not even envious
Yeah.
at all. Just like whatever makes you feel good about what's actually going on, brother.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just like, again, like if you look like a melted ice cream cone, I just don't, like, I can't look up to that person.
Yeah.
And so growing up, like I got confidence from my granddad because he was just like erring on the side of arrogance, just overly confident, like super successful. So that rubbed off on me. And then I was just like, wait, how hypocritical is it for me to have all of this confidence and for me to not, like, for me to just not be in my strongest physical form? Like, what the fuck am I doing? And so then it got to the point where it's just like, I'm just wasting my life not looking how I could look. And when I got there and I got the tools and resources and hired a nutritionist and learned about how to be in control of my body's composition, the power that comes with it is like nothing like I've ever experienced in my life. And now when I meet people for the first time, we're just like, holy shit. And that's like, I'll never go back. You know what I mean?
Beautiful. Beautiful. One more, guys.
So one skill outside of sales, I'd say, is martial arts. What we do next.
Yeah.
I've worked with a lot of people with some original sensei and many other trainers after that. For me, that's allowed me to really build a lot of self-discipline, build a lot of mental fortitude, and like break through the mental barriers when things get really, really hard. And allow me to keep pushing through no matter what. And it's all you at the end of the day, so you have to just get through yourself. You can't really hang with someone else. And what led me to coding it was really like wanting to have self-confidence for myself, to protect myself whenever I need to. I'd say that's what.
How did you clone it?
Just through, how did I clone it exactly? Just through practicing it, just doing it close.
But what would you do at practice? Would someone demonstrate and you'd literally copy what they do?
Yeah, demonstrate, I'll copy as much as I can, give me feedback, and use that feedback to improve, make it better and better, until it stops feedback.
Yep. I'd say Ben's, most probably, is the one that is most similar to cloning. Because there's a difference between just learning something, like nutrition or how to speak, versus cloning something. Everybody understand the difference? The difference is the detail that you're going into. You're like, I literally am going to carbon copy this thing into me. You know, anybody seen that funny meme? Which is like, you're asking a graphic designer to do a logo or whatever, and you're like, I want it like this, and then you pay a cheap graphic designer, and it comes back as like a squiggly drawing, and you're like, that's not quite exactly what I was looking for. It's a big difference, whereas cloning is like, you literally look at the two side by side, and you're like, fuck, these are exactly the same. Now, I don't talk exactly like, not even close actually, but my attempt was, I literally want to be in a sales context. Like, I literally want to just copy everything about how he speaks, what he says, why he says it, when he says it, the demeanor behind it, because he's got what I want. It wasn't like, well, I'll just kind of learn from him. It was like, I'm literally trying to clone it. You understand the differentiation, guys? It's a lot more specific. So cloning the hero. Now, somebody explain, and this is obviously time, by the way, and now you can see 2 months in, 20 grand per month. So my first month I made like 7, second month I made 20. But in order to be able to clone the hero, I had to have broken free, and I had to have a sword to die on, and then now I had to start cloning the hero. Somebody, if you can, explain why we have hyperactivity on the bottom for the first 2, and then productivity for the next one.
Because hyperactivity is like, you could be busy and still be an idiot.
Yep.
But until you have a clone process and get traction, you're just spinning wheels.
100%. Spot on. Does that make sense to everybody? I was hyperactive here, 80 hours a week. I probably didn't even put in 80 hours there, probably something like 60. And my income went from 1,500 to 20,000 because I now cloned the hero. All right, we're going to take a timeout for 5-10 minutes just for some current questions. How are we all feeling, guys? Is this making sense?
I feel like I'm in hyperactivity.
Yep.
Like I've been putting more time into studying this math time than anything ever before, and I still feel like I'm banging my head against the wall because I haven't seen the results. I don't know if what I'm doing is the right thing. Like I just don't know, and I'm like I'm afraid that I'll get burned out, and I'll stop being. I'll just stop putting in the effort before I cross the line of productivity.
Yep.
That's my fear.
So you've got to make sure that you're cloning the right things. For example, I didn't have a single live video call or a single live phone call with probably until about 9 months in. All I had was 4 calls from him, and I could ask him some questions in voice notes. That was it. There was no training course, there was no video training modules, there was no community, there was none of that. So whilst you do need to be on the live calls on a Wednesday, you're only supposed to be there to clone what gets you the result, not just to attend. Go for it.
What's the distinction between cloning the hero and following the script, which has been based off?
Well, if your hero is somebody that has followed a script, then clone the script. I just don't know anybody that ever accomplished what I wanted to by following a script. Well, no, I'll give you a better example. If you are in terrible shape, like Daniel was saying, the ice cream man, and you look at a guy that's like a little bit less fat, you could clone the guy that's a little bit less fat, but I'm just going to go for the person that's exactly how I want to be and copy everything they're doing. So you can clone a script if you want to.
So more so the process of cloning. So what you did was writing down everything he said, why is he saying it, why is he doing this, why is his energy doing this.
Embodying it.
Embodying it.
Yeah.
And
So
the
like,
difference is when you're following a script, it's just all of these inferences have been made by the person who created the script, and you're just going to, at the top, understand it with everyone.
yep. And you can, I could just give you the script, but you haven't cloned anything. Because the difference, cloning is, I'm going to take what's inside of you, I'm going to put it inside of me. Very different, I'm just going to take what you've got and just put it on a piece of paper. Does that make sense? I've got to clone that person, so I'm now becoming that person. You had a question?
I was going to ask.
Do you want a water?
Well, the 4 pillars are constants. A
Yes.
script is constant. So when you say, like, yeah, if you want to clone the script, I can think of people on the offer that I'm at where there are variables that change with every call, but there are also things that are constant that I would consider a script. I would also consider the 4 pillars, like, although a snippet, still a script.
But it doesn't say clone the thing. You've got to clone a person.
Okay.
You can't just clone a thing if you want to get the result, because you are the thing that's moving. You've got to bring it into who you are and your being. You look confused.
What did that look like for you, like when you were cloning UM?
So I'd listen to UM.
Yeah.
I'd say what he's saying in my head. I'd say it out loud, and I'd feel like I'm UM. I'm like, oh shit, like I'm actually becoming UM. As opposed to just I'm reading or saying the words that UM says, but I'm not actually changing. Go for it.
I was going to say, one takeaway I noticed is like your utilization of what you had available to you. Like you only had 4 core recordings,
Yep.
you made a whole fucking book out of
Yep.
it. Most people get like 4 core recordings, you watch it when they're in bed or some shit.
Yeah.
So
Those, just for being accurate, those 4 PDFs were, the 4 big booklets were the 4 calls from UM and every single voice note that he had ever sent me. So every time I had a question, I'd be like, what should I do here? Why did this happen? He'd say something, I'd be like, transcribe it out. So I can read it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Say that again?
You got to like the understanding.
Yeah.
The core of it.
Yeah.
And then you're just building on top of it.
Yep. Yep.
So now it's different for us because I can see how less is more.
Oof.
You know, because you having 4 calls just keeps you down where you could probably watch those 4 calls over and over and over
Yep.
and understand the process to a T, right? Versus where we are now, the internal is like step by step for sure, but maybe sometimes like with like the scriptless, because we have so many resources. Sometimes it's like trying to figure out which resource kind of how you had like those 4 calls to dial in the process, which resource can help to dial in the process to watch over and over
Yep.
and over and over.
The resources are going to be the launchpad if it's an internal issue, the 4 core pillars if it's a structure issue, or mastering scriptless selling. So going back to your point, I had those 4 calls, which were 4 kind of different archetypes, but they were kind of similar. But that didn't cover every sales conversation that I needed to have. For example, I would clone one of those calls. I'd hop on the phone with a prospect. I'd start kind of going down the line that UM was going, and then the prospect would go in a different direction. I'd be like, fuck, what do I do now? So then I'd lose the sale, and I'd go to UM and say, well, they said this. What should I do there? He's like, well, and he'd tell me something. I'd be like, okay. And so it was constantly adding to those 4 calls. But yeah, it started like this, and then it went like this. But it wasn't like most sales courses are like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Life doesn't go like that. Life is like you've got to expand. You've got to learn to be able to adapt to any situation. Go for it, brother.
You said that I went to the environmental. What was the level of support that was provided?
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But in general, if I asked him a question, he would respond.
It was through text messages?
Telegram voice notes.
Telegram.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had one-on-one access to them?
Yeah.
As much as you want? I mean,
Within reason, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if we looked at how many, because I'm on that live call with you guys for like 4 or 5 hours. Now, it's not one-on-one, but I'm in there for 5 hours, in school every day usually. You have the same amount of access to me as I had to UM in terms of time, but bear in mind, you've got me and UM. You've got 2 of us. So, but it's basically the same.
I don't know for the other guys. I know that when I got started with you, I was battling you a lot on Facebook Messenger.
Did I reply?
All the fucking time, like you.
But that's the difference. How many of you, and you shouldn't, by the way, you should be doing it on Facebook, but how many of you post in school regularly with a question? Or how many of you just kind of like post a win? Not that there's anything wrong with posting wins, but yeah, like I was probably the most annoying mentee for UM, but I wanted to clone it. If you don't ask questions all day, every day in school, now they've got to be reasonably crafted questions. Don't ask, stupid shit, but you have access to us. Even while we're here, if we're on a lunch break or if we're just hanging around, just come and ask me something. We're here for you. So, all right. Why do people make choices? So by the way, if you haven't already, the words in blue, you should have a list by the end of this of all of those words in blue because they're pretty useful. Why do people make choices? Once you've got an answer, stand up this time and shout it out.
To get some closer to where you want to get to.
How?
Let's say, I'll use Daniel's example. The ice cream guy, you make the choice not to use ice cream to get healthier, right?
Yep.
I guess if it's self-interest.
Okay. So if you miss that, it gets them closer to where they want to go. So they're progressively making steps towards it. Great. What else? Not necessarily, no. If they make the wrong choices.
Sometimes it keeps them safe and secure.
Could keep them safe, could keep them secure.
There's one book that you can have anything in life, but you can't have everything.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson, yeah. Got to pick your damn poison.
Choose something that you sacrifice.
Yep, got to sacrifice things. Anybody else?
Out of fear, people make choices out of fear.
Yep.
Emotion.
Why are they making the choice out of fear, though? What is the outcome that they're trying to accomplish?
Trying to avoid the outcome of whatever they're trying to avoid, whatever that fear is. They're making a choice. That way they can avoid.
Yep. So the same as what Gary said. The fear is making them make a choice that they think is going to keep them away from making a step closer towards something that they don't want to get to. Yeah. So the choices are what are the steps. Remember the concrete choice? I'm going to step over here, step over here. Like you said, could go the wrong direction. But the choices are the things that are going to now be your direction. Okay? An act of choosing between two or more possibilities. Every time you're going to move somewhere, you pick which direction you're going. Like Nicole said, gets you closer or gets you further away. Now, it says here between good and evil. What happens if we have a choice between good and evil, guys? What happens if we have a choice between good and evil? Just your general definition. Thanks, brother. Say that again. Let me rephrase the question. If you're stood in front of a moment of choice between good and evil, what happens? Which one are you going to pick?
In theory, we want to pick good, but sometimes we don't always.
Some people will pick either, which is still a decision in itself. And they do that.
How many times in your life have you had a decision between good and evil? Really? Damn, you guys living some intense lives. Fucking hell. Who's had a choice between good and evil?
What is good?
Just your just generalized good and evil. Anybody had a choice between good and evil? What's your choice between good and evil?
If it's lunchtime, you either choose to eat healthy, that's good, or you can go and...
Is that evil?
I mean, to me...
Serious question, guys. Who in their life has ever had a fucking choice between good or evil? We're not living in fucking Star Wars.
So, yes, then what will be good, what will be evil?
The point, guys, is it's never between fucking good and evil. We're not in a movie. It's between good and slightly better, or good and slightly worse, and that's why the choice is difficult. If I put you in front of a decision, right, go and kill that person or go and love that person, it's not a difficult decision, guys. The reason that choices are difficult is because they're not usually between good or evil. It's not that extreme. It's not black and white. So, previous slides, a couple back, I was making $20,000 a month. And I find myself in a choice between good or evil. No, I don't. Doesn't happen. I'm making $20,000 a month. I've learned a new skill, cloning the hero, making bank. What do you think happened next? Nope.
You have to decide that was enough.
Nope.
You decided that was...
And then what? Why?
These are bad decisions.
What? Give me an example. Bad decisions.
Maybe starting up, just going out late, like not sleeping well.
Why would I go out late?
You have the money that you can spend, so you want
Okay, had the money, yeah.
You thought you had made it.
Thought I'd made it. Stopped doing what got me there. I got to $20,000 a month, and my income started going up and down and up and down and up and down. 20, 15, 20, 10, 20, 15. It was going like this for 3-4 months.
What was your closing rate at the time?
I don't remember. No idea. So why do you think my income, once I'd hit 20K, I've cloned the hero, I've broken free, got a sword to die on, cloned a skill, cloned a hero, made 20K, and then my income goes up and down and up and down and up and down. We're talking about choices, guys. Complacency. Be specific, guys, like real life here. Not general vague terms, complacent.
You want us committed anymore to the outcome.
So what was I committed to? Like what? Girls? That was a big one. Yeah. I was this new person on the outside, clone the hero. I can do it. I can close deals. I can make $20,000. On the inside, I was still the guy living in the studio mentally. Well, I was actually physically still living in the studio for a while as well. Partying, alcohol, not physically, but mentally. And so then, when my friends would message me, you want to go out? Is that a choice between good or evil, guys? Your friends message you, do you want to go out? Do you want to go for a coffee? Is that evil? What do you think I said? Yeah, sure. I'm making 20 grand a month. Let's talk about it. I'll pay for the coffee. When a girl said, do you want to go on a date? I was like, I'm rich now. Definitely going on a date now.
You call that girl back?
Not that girl, but I did message her about a year later, and I said thank you, but not on a date, no. And I got really fucking stuck. I was going out with my friends, hanging out with my family, hanging out with girls, and my income was just up and down and up and down and up and down. So I went to UM. I said, fix it. And he sent me this message, which was transcribed. You're going to have a mission. You're going to be a leader. And if someone doesn't fucking like that, they can go and fuck themselves. because that fucking loser doesn't need to be in your life. Now, this was the key. As you continue on this journey, there are going to be friends, family, girls, things that you can't bring with you. Now, look at this next bit. And I'm not just talking about the toxic ones. It's not good or evil, guys. If you have toxic friends or a toxic partner or a toxic activity like drugs and alcohol, and you start making it, it's very easy to stop doing that shit. It's not that difficult. I'm talking about the ones that are like good people. They've never done anything wrong to you. Your friends, your family, nice girls, nice things that you're doing. They're nice, but at the end of the day, they're walking a different path in this lifetime, and it's not on you to save them or to appease them. You've got to continue on your own way, and the people that want your help and that want to follow you will. And those devoted folks, you can focus your attention on. I've cut out a lot of this next bit. Because you cannot continue to surround yourself with a bunch of beep or be some cucked little bitch in a peasant environment, working like a loser and doing things that you no longer fucking believe in. Something like that. So before I was making money, I would go on dates, I'd hang out with my family, I'd hang out with my friends, and I used to love reading. I used to spend 5-6 hours a day reading books. Go for a coffee in the morning for an hour and a half, lunchtime for an hour, after work, read for a couple of hours, before bed, read for an hour. Had to stop reading. My time was now worth $1,000 an hour. Could be closing a deal or getting better at closing a deal, and that could make me $1,000, or I could read a fucking book, or I could go on a date, or I could hang out with my nice friends that were always good people. They never did anything wrong to me. But because of this, my income was going up and down and up and down and up and down because I couldn't decide. I was like, am I going with my friends? Am I going to practice one of my 4 calls from UM? I'm going to go hang out with my family or not? Now, interesting one here. They're not toxic. They're not trying to keep you down in the valley and murder you. They just want company. Hey, don't leave. Come for a coffee. This is the hard stuff, guys. Your family. You want to come for dinner? How long is it going to be? I don't know. Why don't you come around at 5 p.m. and your mum will start cooking at 5 and might take a couple of hours. We'll have a chat, have dinner, stay and watch a movie, and then head back. I'm like, 5 p.m. until 11 p.m.? Fuck. It's like 5 hours. It's like $5,000. Fuck that. But in the beginning, I was like, it's family. Can't really be a dickhead and say no to family. So, is this making sense, guys?
Did you ever end up regretting not spending time with your family?
Nope. Because now, we'll get to it later, look at the stuff that I've been able to do for myself and for my family and for you guys. If I'd have just stayed in this limbo, I wouldn't be here. How much did you make a month before joining UCM?
Okay.
How much do you make now?
18.
That wouldn't happen. No disrespect to you, but that wouldn't happen if I was fucking going for coffee with my friends. If I was going on dates or reading books. I don't know the exact number, but let's just say he's made an extra 15 grand a month. Times that by 12 months, that's 180,000. Let's say that all of you can copy what Julian did. 180,000 times 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 times, call it 20. It's like $4 million extra generated per year that can be utilized for good because I made a choice. Was it an easy choice? Question? Was it an easy choice?
No.
Is choosing between good and evil an easy choice? Yeah, it's a pretty easy choice. Good or evil? No, good. What about making $20,000 a month, but saying goodbye for a period to your friends that just want to go and hang out with you? They don't want to. My friends weren't saying, hey, come and do drugs. They're like, hey, let's just go for coffee. I was like, it's going to be 2 hours. Drive there, coffee, drive back, do that 3 times a week. It's 25 hours a month, 50% close rate, 12 hours a month, $1,000. That's $12,000 per month just from going for a few coffees with my friends. I played all of these equations in my head, and I was like, I just can't do it. But it took me 4 months to actually go for it.
When you kind of brushed over it, but would you say that when you started valuing your time, you put a dollar amount on
Yeah.
your time, that like, I never had that shift until recently, and I noticed that it's changing me. Like, would you say that's what helped you to, because you kind of alluded to it, does that kind of what helped you to justify not spending time with them anymore and making the choice to go this way versus that way because your time is now worth X amount of dollars?
It was a good start, but it's still like, $1,000 or my best friend for the last 10 years wants to go and have a coffee. I'm like, It was a good leverage point, like, well, it's $1,000, but it doesn't change the emotions that you're feeling about this sucks. Like, it really sucks. And going back for the last final time, guys, it doesn't suck making a choice between good or evil. Like, it's like, well, I'm doing the right thing. But it's this type of choice that you're like, what do I do? Now, I brushed over it here, but I want to go back a second. My family, good people, always been there for me. Told them I made $20,000 in a month. Guess what happened after that? Nope. It's probably a scam. You gotta be careful with money. Money makes people evil. Money's gonna make you a bad person. Life isn't about money. All of these beliefs coming in, I was like, I can't fucking hang around my family. No, seriously. It took me 4 months to figure it out, but I was like, I need to cut my family out. Literally.
How did you manage to build a moat around yourself to then, obviously now, I'm assuming at the time you do hang out with your family, you're able to basically have the internal conviction of yourself that my beliefs are my beliefs, and I figured that out. I figured that out for myself. How did you build that moat around yourself?
That message, which is why I'm here.
To have that moat and then be able to come back, be exposed to those kind of things and not get it.
A year and a half. I'm not saying I didn't see my family for a year and a half, but it was a year and a half until, you didn't ask this question, but what changed is the frame. It was like my parents were here and I'm their child, even though I was 26, and they're trying to look out for me. Be careful. Money's dangerous. Life isn't all about that. And you have, if you choose, you have to go on your own path, and then they look at you and they're like, he was right, we were wrong. You never have that conversation directly, but you feel now they're looking at me. Not in an egotistical way, but like, I can reintegrate them back into my life because I've flipped the dynamics. I'll give you a weird example. This is very weird. Who here has an ex that they're friends with? Okay, well, who here's ever tried to be friends with their ex? Okay. How long did you have to wait before you could kind of balance that type of, we're just friends now? Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like, your relationship with your family or your friends is based on a certain frame. You have to break that and then change the frame and then reintegrate it. And there has to be a period, which is the title that we're going to get to here in a minute, burning the ships. There has to be a period where you burn the ships. And so I was at 20, 10, 20, 15, 20, 10. Burnt the ships, boom, 30K. Whew. But it took me months to actually cut the rope. And in answer to your question, I only did it after 4 months of getting so frustrated with and the other thing is, I was having a shit relationship with my friends and family and a shit result at trying to get past 20K. I was doing a bad job of both of them. So I'm like, And ultimately, I had to get this message from which if you heard the voice note is much more intense than the transcription. And then I was like, I just got to cut them out. Go for it.
So putting it in like a school term, you were basically getting 2 Bs.
Yeah.
But then you had to cut it out like, I can only get an A+ in one, I can't get an A+ in both.
Yeah.
You need to cut one out.
Yeah. It's a great metaphor.
Tell everyone that you're isolating yourself for that reason, or was it just no communication?
I had a biff with my dad once about it because he was like trying to tell me shit, and I was like, what the fuck do you know? I'm making more money than you've ever made in your life. That didn't turn out very well. And then that was actually part of the process of burning the ships as well, is I was like, I cannot change the frame while being inside the frame. Like I have to just pull myself out and then let them come to me when they want. It's kind of like how I do follow-up. At the end of a call, if I haven't done enough that the person's going to call me back, I ain't really, hey, just following up, do you want to buy now? Fuck that. No, but I'll do enough on the sales call and then be like, if you decide when you're ready that you want to enroll and change your life, you message me. It's kind of like that. So it's like, I had to just basically not say anything, just cut them out. And then they started coming to me and being like, oh, you're right, you figured it out. Yeah.
For that particular decision when you're buying the ships, with your friends it makes sense, but with the family and how you frame the decision and on yourself, was it framed as like, okay, I'm burning the ships for a year or two, because you can't, it depends. But how did you frame that decision from a time frame perspective?
To me or to them?
To yourself. To yourself when you made that decision. How did you frame that? Because if you're saying I'm burning the ships, and
it sounds indefinite.
Indefinitely. Versus, okay, I'm going to burn the ships for a time frame.
Such a great question.
How did you frame it?
In my mind, it was that I'm willing to do this if it's forever. It's a great question, yeah. Like what, if 2 years later I started hanging out with my family and they were indoctrinating me with all of these shit beliefs, am I going to, no, I'm just like, You got to continue on your own way, and the people that want your help and want to follow you will, and those are the people you got to focus your attention on. I never thought about it like this, but I decided that my focus was going to be on me getting rich and having an impact over my family, if that's what it had to be. Didn't end up having to be that. I could kind of do both, but at the time it was like, I've got to choose one or the other.
For me particularly, it's a paradoxical thing because a lot of the reason why I want to get rich is for the family.
Yeah.
It's for my brother, it's for my
Yeah.
mom, it's for my daddy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting.
And that's because you're choosing to want to do something for the future, better, hypothetical version that they can be when you're that person, and you're choosing the future version over the current version. So you've kind of like separated out, well, there's like, this might not be accurate, but I'll give an example. My family are poor, I'm gonna go and get rich so that I can pull them out of that. Well, you're choosing to step over here for the future hypothetical version of them, which is great. But you've got to let go of the reality version, which is like, well, they're gonna just keep anchoring me down. Yeah. Is this all making sense to everybody? How are we feeling? We're all a bit somber.
It's like letting go of the now for the better future.
Yeah.
I have to do
You okay? Thoughts?
Well, not specifically on this. It's just kind of, I'm older than most people.
Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff on the choices, it's kind of a lot of avoided choices.
How do you mean?
More than, I have trouble thinking of real difficult choices I made, and when you start thinking of, it seems like they get made more when they're forced.
And how's that worked out for you?
I mean, I can't really complain. I've had a really good life.
Okay.
So I've not really ever struggled.
Right.
But there's a sense of there's still music in me that hasn't come out. And so, even coming into closing, it's a result of kind of trying to get that music out and being unsuccessful.
Yeah.
But these whole steps, you've got to do it in a step-by-step process. You can't jump right into the underground mentor role.
Right.
You've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And so thinking through these choices, that's kind of, that's where I was in a difficult choice. It's kind of got to start over. You got to start the first round.
To what extent do you think some of the music is still in you because the choices that you've made have usually been forced upon you rather than proactive?
A lot of what you're talking about here, avoiding family, I've really focused on.
Okay.
And I got 3 girls in college now.
Yeah.
And I don't regret it at all.
Right.
And I've had the ability to support a great lifestyle for everybody.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of like there's kind of like what's next. It's transitional time. It's like, okay, there's still something more that I've got to go do.
What do you think might be the sacrifice that you have to, or the choice that you might have to make to accomplish that?
I think it's kind of sacrificing freedom. I think it's kind of the I can do what I want when I want and have to, really kind of buckle down and work at it.
Yeah.
Serious.
Okay. Anybody else? Thoughts? Go for it.
As to what Oscar was talking about, my relationship with my older sister. I'm the last one. It's me and my twin brother. I'm technically the youngest, and that relationship was strained, man. Where it's like she says one thing and it's just always leading to arguments. So eventually, when I decided to go down this path, I was just like, I cannot deal. So I literally said, this is it. I'm not going to speak to you until whenever. We'll figure it out then. And I'd say about 2.5 years later, things started to get better. Now she'll message me, she'll check in.
Yeah.
She will not ask about what I'm doing because she knows that's the boundary, right?
Right.
Whatever she needs, if she needs me to help her, when at the house, if she's hosting a party, whatever, she'll ask me for help. But so I'd say burning that bridge has led us to a much, much better place now where she actually sees me as okay, cool. He's not just my little brother, right? He's doing his shit, he's taking care of himself. If I need anything, I can depend upon him. So it's not easy, dude.
No.
But it's just do it. Yeah. That's my advice.
Love it. Anybody else?
Yeah, I do. I gave up on boxing, and I thought I did when I came inside of the mastermind, or a little bit later. But I understood even now, until a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I was still trying to fit in.
Trying to do both.
Yeah, I wasn't prepping for a fight. I made the decision that I wasn't prepping for fights anymore, but I was still helping other pros the prep for fights.
It's called shadow work. You know that?
Yeah. At the point where I was stepping in 3 times a week and I was getting my ass, I was being hurt really badly because I wasn't training as hard as I was supposed to, was as hard as them. Until I had this conversation with JP, with my manager, and we spoke, and I don't know how we came to that realization, but he was like you can or you have to make a decision, but you need to do something about it.
Yours is super visceral. I don't know if everybody heard that, but basically, when he was all in on boxing, he'd get hit, but it wouldn't hurt that bad because he's training. But when you're half in, you're like, fuck, I'm getting beat up. It's a great metaphor for it, and that's a real story. It's if you're half training and you're still going in the ring, you're going to get the shit kicked out of you.
Are you only on sales now? Do you not fight professionally?
So I still train, but I went from, again, until 10 days ago, I was still training 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. Now I just train like 1 hour a day. Still small.
Do you feel weight lifted off you right now?
No.
That's why I'm running down. Like, and when I made that decision the same day, I was sad, I was scared. But then now I feel free. I feel lighter. I feel like hot. I feel like I've got this weight off my shoulders because I made that decision. It's awesome.
Has everybody answered this? Well, that's not good. Because this is a model of transformation in the sense of when we get to the end and you see at the end, if you don't go through these things, your end game will be different.
Every time I tried to think of something, it was just like, oh, that was not a difficult decision.
Right.
It was a no-brainer.
Yeah, it was a good or evil no-brainer. Like, it's like just obvious.
Well, the decision to, no, everything was just like, I think the reason that I've never had to make a difficult decision was because I'm procrastinating my whole life. And when I'm at that crossroads, it's either I make the decision or I will die. And so it's like the catalyst is so strong that I can think of lots of decisions that I could have made that would have been difficult had I made them at the time that I should have made them, right? But then the pressure built up so much so that it was just like, I was so beyond the coefficient of friction, it was just like a no-brainer. Just like coming into this mastermind, it was just like, I've been in this industry for 5 years, never been able to break like 35, I made 35K 1 month, but it was a fluke, it wasn't consistent. So at the time, it would have been very difficult for me to make the decision to invest in myself, but instead it got to the point where it was just like, I better fucking invest in myself. I'm
Right.
messaging Josh Lyons right now. I don't care how much it is, I don't know how much it is. Hopefully I can afford it, so I'm just gonna ask him for a payment link. That's what I did. It was an easy decision.
So that kind of goes back to, what is that word there? Yours don't even sound like choices. It's like, choice is where you're like, I could go this way, or I could go that way. And this is not good or evil. I'm going to choose one or the other. This is the key breakthrough of this lesson, is when you actually choose A or choose B. Not when you're like, I've left it so long now, it's not even a choice. I'm just going to do it. Because we haven't really got into it yet, but being the type of person that can actually make the choice is part of the internal transformation that allows you to get the result that you want. Being the type of person that leaves stuff to build up until it's just inevitable, you're forfeiting one of the greatest powers that you can have, which is to actually be stood at a crossroads between good on one side or excellent on the other side, and choose the difficult decision, which is to let go of the good, to sacrifice the good, to earn the great.
Was letting go of your family a hard decision?
So fucking difficult.
It was hard?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going through the same thing, but it was just like I've seen so many stories of how this goes. If I don't, and it's easy. It's like, I guess, surely I've made difficult decisions. I just can't, just nothing is like memorable.
I'll give you an example of how difficult it was as well. So my dad's relatively old. He had me when he was 40. So he's now 71. I think I'm 31. I'm not entirely sure. And one of the difficulties was, as I had made the decision, constantly thinking to myself, like, what if my dad dies? And I'm like not seeing him. What if that happens right now? And that's where you have to stick with your faith and your choice. It's like, well, what's the alternative? I just go back to hanging out all the time? Not all the time, but even if it's like 2 times a week for 5 hours, it's like, that's 10 hours. For my close rate, which it basically was 50%, I'm like, that's 20 grand a month. $20,000. Like, what else can I do with that 20 grand? It's really difficult. But when you see me on a mock call or a live call digging into a prospect and you're like, where does that come from? It comes from shit like this. When I can go harder on a prospect than you guys can, because I went harder on myself. That's where that ability comes from. Not because I've memorized some fucking reframe word track, but because I made a difficult choice. And so when I'm stood in the pocket with the prospect and I'm like, you need to fucking grow a pair. And they're like, well, you're attacking me. I'm like, yeah, I am. Because the life that you want and the person that you want to become is on the other side of this difficult decision. And I've made those difficult decisions, so I'm going to hold you accountable to it. There's no word track. It's just coming from the heart because I've been through it. Make sense? All right. And remember what we were just saying there about the ability. Notice that there's a line here. We're about to get into the next level. And based on what Daniel said, not ripping into Daniel, but if it's not a choice, you don't create this line. If it's just, oh, this is going to happen, you're still in productivity. Control. I should say, what does control do, not why, but what does control do? What does control do, guys? Go for it.
Manage or maintain.
Manage things and maintain. Beautiful. Anybody else? Structure, yep. Predictability, yep. Creates your reality, yep. Control. Reality, control, predictability, managing, maintaining, beautiful. The power to influence or direct the course of events. Doesn't say to guarantee them, to influence them. In other words, if something's going to be really, 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 really bad, but I have control, I can make it less bad. Or if something's going to be good and I have control, maybe I can amplify it. It's not a magical power that allows you to turn shit into gold, but control gives you the power to influence or direct the course of events. Ben talked about doing martial arts. I don't do martial arts, so I'm talking hypothetically here. But in some martial arts, when someone throws a punch or a kick at you, you direct their force in a different direction. You don't stop their force. They still have force. It's just going in a different direction. Control allows us to do that. Control is something that reduces the inaccuracy or the inefficiency, or both. Of course. So again, guys, you should be writing down all of these keywords. Control was in blue before. So at this point, I'm making $30,000 a month. We got a joke?
No, you're not going to film this.
I've burned the ships. I've let go of my family, friends, dating, books. I'm making $30,000 a month. My skill set was the best it had ever been at the time. I was just in flow. It's like, man, no baggage, cloned the mentor, got my commitment. I'm in flow state, crushing it, $30,000 a month. But I wasn't going any higher. It was just 30K. Wasn't going up and down, but it was just 30K, 30K, 30K. Okay? Anybody that didn't write that down, feel free to write that down. So my skill set was the best it was, but then I started losing some deals. And I was actually more frustrated losing deals that I could have closed than I was not being able to close previously in the past. Like, oh, I didn't have a skill and whatever. I was more frustrated because I was like, I could be doing this. I've got the skill, and I'm still missing some deals here. My income isn't going higher. I knew what to do, but I was either not doing it or it just wasn't working. Say the right things or hop on the call, and I either just wouldn't do what I know I'd supposed to be doing. I'd get off the call, listen back to the call, no close. I'd be like, fuck, I should have said this. Why didn't I say that? I knew what to say. It was in my head, but I didn't do it. And then I came across this quote. Jordan Peterson didn't originate it, but he's who I heard it from, so I've put both there. What you most want to find will be found where you least want to look. I kept reviewing my calls, listening and hearing things that I should have said that I didn't say, and that was pretty easy. I was like, oh, I should have said this. But that wasn't the place that I didn't want to look. The place that I didn't want to look was where? Internally, me. I started checking out. I'd be on the calls and I'm like just getting sloppy. Like not really doing my 4 core pillars the way I should, or trying to experiment with things a little bit, missing out things that I should have gone deeper in and got the specifics or challenged the prospect. And I would get off the call, listen to the call review and be like, oh, I know what I should have done. So why was I not doing it? Sam Ovens said this. Someone else said it as well. You don't have business problems, you have personal problems. You will continue, and by the way, if you're a closer, the business is you. You will continue to fail at any venture you try if you don't take a deep look into your life and see what is stopping you from achieving your goals. Only you know what is stopping you. So when I came across these 2 things, I realized, oh, fuck. I need to look at me, and I need to start engineering myself. Just like inputs in an equation, electricity that's going through a wire, there's going to be resistance in the wire. The same amount of electricity is going through the wire, but the resistance is either going to reduce the amount of electricity that comes out the outside because it gets dissipated, it comes off the wire as heat, wastage. So all of that energy, all of that potential that I had because I'd cloned UM's skill wasn't 100% converting into the results that I wanted. And it wasn't a skill problem. So I went on a exploratory journey of internal mastery. And I had UM, of course, but I also started reading everything I possibly could about personal mastery. Things like setting up rules, an antidote to chaos. The chaos was me. I'd be in a good mood one day, a bad mood the other day, driven one day, not driven the other day, inspired one day, not inspired the next day. And so I started writing out all of these different things and trying to figure out the process and the system because I had sales skills. And so I used my sales skills on myself. I'd be on a call, come off the call, didn't close, and I'd ask myself, what was the biggest challenge on that call with me? Well, why did that happen? What specifically showed up? Why do I think that showed up? Has that happened before? What are the patterns here? What do I think I need in order to not have that show up? I literally ran sales calls on myself because I had something, which was sales skills, but I didn't have something, which was internal mastery. So I took what I knew in sales and put myself through that process. I started to try and control the variables that I could control, which was the internal. Making sense? It's like you can't control the rain, but you can control checking the weather forecast and taking a jacket with you. Letting go. I was like, fuck, my emotions are all over the place. Studying, letting go. Started studying. Nothing to do with sales. I already had the sales skills because I'd get off those call reviews and I'd know exactly what I should have done, should have said, the state that I should have been in. So I realized I don't need to study any more sales. I need this for now. Right now, this is what I needed. And so UM jumped in because he got fed up with me not closing deals and said, if you're actually going to be a unicorn, that means you're going to take full control of your mind and your body and the things that you allow to enter each of those. Take full control. The ability to reduce the inaccuracies or the inefficiencies of a system. And I was the system. Michelangelo, who carved the statue of David, which is not that, by the way, but that's just an example. When he was asked, how did you carve the statue of David? He said, it's simple. I just remove everything that is not David. So I started to do that for myself. I was like, I need to remove these. I need to remove this incorrect period where I'm like, oh, I've made 30 grand. I don't need to make any more money. I'm crushing it. I don't need to do more. I need to remove the times where I wasn't taking care of my health. If you remove all of the things that are not serving you, which is the internal stuff. Have you written that down? Whoever wanted to go back on that, yeah? Still writing down. This is why there's no phones, guys, because if you just took a picture, you wouldn't fucking remember this. If you write it down, you're actually going to embody it. But the key piece is take full control. UM didn't say, if you're actually going to be a unicorn, that means you're going to get better at sales. You're going to do more studying. No. I already knew that. He said, if you're actually going to be a unicorn, that means you're going to take full control. I had to get at the helm of the ship, grab the steering wheel, and turn it in the directions that I needed it to go. And in order to do that, like if it was taking a ship somewhere, I needed a path. I needed a route. I needed to know which way I'm turning the ship. So I created the launch pad for myself. Through all of the studying of Jordan Peterson and UM and Wayne Dyer and Neville Goddard and David Hawkins, I created the launch pad. So going back to what you're asking, my state, I'd be on a sales call, I'd come off of it, I would have known what to say because I could say, oh, I should have said this, but I didn't say it. So I knew it was a state problem. I was like, it's not a skill problem. So I created the pre-call checklist. If I put myself in the right state, the right resourceful state, then I'll know what to say and say what I should have said. My mission. Every single time I'd hit an income goal, the next day, week, period of time, I'd go backwards. Because I was like, I'm not driven anymore. I've just hit my goal. So I realized I needed to have a progressive tracker that kept pushing me further and further and further along so that I didn't have these inconsistencies when I would hit my goals. Does that make sense? Yeah? My health, when I first got into sales, I was taking like 3 calls a day. And as I started making more money, I started taking more calls because UM was pushing me. And with the increased call volume, I got burnt out. But burnt out of what? Like I knew what to say. I was like, I'm just tired. I'm taking 6 calls a day now, like I'm pretty exhausted. So I was like, I need to dial in my health. I need to drink better water. I need to sleep better. If I want to sustain myself, it's not sales that's the problem. I need to actually increase my capacity of the tank, of the fuel. That was because I was taking more sales calls. my routine. As I grew and I had to fit more calls in, I had to fit more practice in, I had to fit more conversations of in to improve my understanding of the deep things in sales, I was like, I can't fit everything in. Like, how am I going to go to the gym and this and this and this and this and this and this? So I had to actually sit down and plan my routine and create keystone habits. The morning walk was the biggest one. It's like, if I just get a morning walk in every day, I'm not going to get fat. And my mind's going to start the day in the right way. So I started to go through that. My values. That's a funny one. This is Give that a read. So that was my tracker on one of the offers. And he said, fix and clean your bathroom. I was like, clean my bathroom? You're forgetting the little things, brother, so I know that bathroom is dirty. And it was. Yeah, I've got a shitload of things to try and manage. I'm trying to balance it all as best as I can. Optimize. I was like, my current state of internal mastery cannot handle all of this shit. This is me, victim, complaining like a little bitch. His response.
Is this combo between you and
Yeah, this is me and Yeah, I've got a shitload to try and manage. Trying to balance it all. Little pussy.
like a year and 11 months in?
Yeah. No. This is 12 months in. 12 months. Yeah. My first sales call was in November 2020. Okay. Yeah. 12 months in.
Josh,
Yeah.
I did the same thing to JP yesterday.
What, complained?
Yeah, I called him. I literally called him because I was burnt out.
Yeah.
After the call.
Yeah.
He didn't tell me that he won't be out, but he was like, take your shit in order and go back and fucking work.
Yeah. Yeah, the answer was optimize. I have to look at my life and I have to create the systems because I can't handle this right now. I was taking whatever it was, 8, 9 calls, well, there you go, seven calls booked on a Monday, 7 days a week. Some days it would be 8. And I was like, I just can't balance all this. So I had to change. The only answer from was not, yeah, brother, I understand it's difficult, let's take a break. No, one word, optimize. That was it, that's all he fucking said. Huh? Well, yeah, yeah. But the interesting thing for me was the connection. Clean your bathroom. I literally got that message and I was like, where's the fucking camera? I was like, fuck, what's going on here?
What was that? Have you guys heard that speech? He was a general in your bed.
Yeah. Admiral, yeah.
General, yeah. First thing comes, make your bed in the morning.
Yeah. Next one was beliefs. Anybody know why I had to fix my beliefs?
Because they were broken.
Yeah, but something had to happen that I was like, shit, I need to fix my beliefs. What happened? 2 things.
They were weekend on the call?
Huh?
They were weekend on the call? You had a conversation with someone and you were losing the call because your belief system were...
Kind of, not exactly, but close. What plateaued? Yep, why? Specifically, 2 things happened that my income kept getting stuck.
You were no longer in control
Of what?
what you needed to become in order to...
You're being too vague, guys. I got sick. I got a cold. And I told I was like, I can't take calls, I got a cold. He was like, what do you mean you got sick? I was like, I got a cold. He was like, I don't get sick. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, I don't believe in sickness. I was like, okay. So I wrote down on a piece of paper, I don't get sick. And I never got sick again. Cost me money. Got sick fucking every month. For 4 or 5 days, I'd get a cold. 7 calls a day. That was a shit day, but 20,000. So that was $2,000 in commission in one day. So imagine 5 of those every month. It's 10 grand every month. Because I had a belief that's like, it's first of the month, I'm going to get sick.
But did you change anything with health?
Nope. Not in connection to this, no. I just wrote down on a piece of paper, I don't get sick. And I just started to believe I don't get sick.
Can I share something?
Go for it.
Same thing. Like I came all the way from Australia, which is quite
Yeah.
far, and I could easily give into like, I get jet lag. I'm
Yep.
gonna be like,
Yeah, exactly.
And I literally believe now I don't get jet lag.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been on 3 long haul flights to Europe over the past couple of years. I haven't gotten jet lag, and
Yeah.
I'm not jet lag now, full of energy.
There you go.
Same thing.
Exactly. So it was all just directly connected to money, guys. I was like, I'm losing money. Why? Well, I got sick. That was 5 days a month. Second one with beliefs was kept getting no-shows. 7 bookings. That was not bad, actually. 7 bookings, 5 calls. But some days it was like 7 bookings, 2 calls. I was like, fuck, that's a waste of a day. I had 7 booked on the calendar and only 2. Said to I was like, I'm getting all these no-shows. He was like, do you want them to turn up? I was like, yeah, kind of. He was like, well, genuinely, because of all this shit, I'm trying to manage. It'd be really nice if a few of my calls don't turn up today so I can take a break. It's literally what I was thinking. So I was just believing the wrong things. Environment. This is about the training that we've got called the professional. I was making money, but I still looked out I was still in the fucking shit studio at this point, by the way. I was looking out at it. I was like, oh, this is a shithole. I'm not inspired. So I had to change my environment. And then the last one, who here has gone through the whole Launchpad? Half of you. You've been through the one on communication? This is why that happened. April 27th, 2021, new self-mastery, this is new self-mastery project, no audio messages in this chat from you for 30 days. The inability to condense communication down to text and the time suck of that leak is value taking, not value offering. While it might be convenient for you most times, it isn't for the other person. To be crystal clear on how big this issue is, I don't know one person on earth that does it more than you. This chat is littered with 2-minute plus messages that could have been easily condensed down to a 30-second read. Thus, the pendulum needs to be swung hard the other way. If you enjoy my mentorship and want to offer me value, make me richer and save my time. Literally, because gets to this point at a certain point, I read this, and do you know what actually went through my head? Fuck about what?
I could lose it.
I ain't gonna have this mentorship if I don't fucking sort out my communication. And so when some of you, not many of you, it's actually the people that are newer into the mastermind, send fucking paragraph messages in school, yeah, you're paying for it, but I was paying at this point as well. Just because you're paying, we can boot you out. And like, mentorship and the connections that you have in life aren't just, well, I'll pay for it. If you communicate like a fucking retard, like I was, they just won't want you in their life. And so it was this extreme for me where I was like, I need to learn to condense all of my messages or I'm gonna lose the most valuable thing in my life, which was the mentorship.
You just responded with a thumbs up to that message.
I literally just put a thumbs up. I got it. Yeah. 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 So, there's that one. Write down a time in your life when you had an opportunity, but you did not have control. So slightly different to the previous question, which was opportunity and no commitment. Time in your life when you had an opportunity, but you did not have control of yourself, and therefore you lost it. For example, had an opportunity, had a shit belief, and the opportunity was gone. Had an opportunity, weren't in control of your health, opportunity was gone. Had an opportunity, terrible at communicating, and you lost the connection or the relationship or whatever. When you've got it, read it out. Go for it.
Second, the first one was like, was before I joined the mastermind. Everything was just a complete mess.
Yeah.
Happiest when I played properly, I'll be 2 days, I'll stay on 2 days, not the wake up time, stuff like that. Like, didn't have any habits or routines in place. I got sick at the end of the month as well. Wasn't taking care of my health properly, going to gym and stuff like that. So just automatically happening was that went to closing time, go shit into a PE ship. That's, I think, implementing everything I got taught, and then obviously went much better. Right?
Yeah.
But it could have avoided all that if I just had control over
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. I'm training you guys here with these practices to look back in the past regressively at what these things have cost you to not have. Making the right choices, having control, having commitment. That's why we're practicing this, so that you go back and you think, fuck, it cost me this in the past. Does that make sense? All right. Moving a little bit quicker here, guys. I would like to give you a bit longer, but we've got a little bit more to go. So, self-actualization. Peak performance, not productivity. I had a skill, I had commitment, and I was in the right environment with the right resources, so I became productive. But I wasn't at my peak performance until I burned the ships by choice, not by default, and self-actualization. That's when I reached peak performance, the internal shit and the external shit that I had to take full control of. So we've gone from hyperactivity to productivity to peak performance. And my income at this point went up to 50 grand. So while the numbers might not exactly match up to you guys, if you look at your numbers, and you're like, I'm at 20K, and take, for example, Daniel, I haven't really burnt any ships, okay? Haven't really taken full control of all of these areas of my life. These are the leaps that you need to go through in stages. Is this making sense? Yeah? I didn't just go from $1,500 to $100,000 a month because I learned sales. If we look at this, we've got another 2 to go. So far, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%. Sales, 20%. 80%, nothing to do with sales. Nothing. All right. What determines the capacity of a car's engine? Very technical. Very technical, yes. Anybody else? The capacity of the engine. Nope.
Pistons?
Nope.
The quality?
The what?
The quality of the materials?
Nope. V6 engine, V4 engine, V12 engine, 2-liter engine. What determines that that engine was only a 2-liter or a 6-liter or a 12-liter or whatever? What determined that? So what determines that?
How you make it.
And what determines how you make it?
Choices you make.
Which are based on what?
The beliefs. Yeah.
Follow along with what Brody's saying? Based on what? Which is based on what?
It's the goal, what it needs to do.
The capacity of a car's engine is based on the use case. I need a 12-liter engine because I want the fastest fucking car. You don't just design a 12-liter engine because you're like, oh, I'll just put a 12-liter in. Total capacity is always as large as needs to be, but no bigger. If you've got a car that only needs to go 50 miles an hour at any time in its life, you're not going to put a V12 engine in it. Going back, what determines the capacity of a car's engine? Always as large as it needs to be, but no bigger. True? Yeah, you're not going to have a capacity that's larger than it needs to be. The use case, the design, is what determines that. So for example, with a car, what ground are we going to go over? If you're going to go over rocky ground, you need a bigger engine because it's going to have to pull the torque to get the car to go over the rocky ground. How fast are we going to go? What are we carrying? Are we pulling a tiny house on the back or whatever? Are we wanting to cooperate or are we wanting to compete? The use case, everybody know what use case means, yeah? Like, what are we going to use this shit for? Determines the capacity because it determines the design. Anybody here religious? Fucking hell. Jesus. Nobody here is religious.
No, I said I prefer the term relationship.
Oh, okay.
Because religion is like a set of
Sorry.
rules.
Okay. With God. Okay. What's some of the different terminology that people use to call God? Huh?
Jesus Christ.
The Almighty. What else? The universe. The higher power. Anybody ever heard of God being called like the great designer? The designer determines the capacity of the car's engine. We're going to get pretty deep here in a minute, so buckle up. All right. So I was making $50K a month. I was making more money than I knew how to spend. So how much more money do you think I started making if I was making more money than I needed and more money than I knew how to spend?
Went down.
Didn't go down, just didn't need any more money. Made $50K a month. And I thought to myself, I've completed the game. $50K a month, fucking rich. Can't spend it all. Man, don't do drugs anymore, so what the hell am I going to spend 50 grand a month on? I had 6 to 7 booked calls a day, 7 days a week. And even though I was making more money than I needed, I was like, I still want to do more. Not necessarily more money, but I want a more challenge. I want the next thing. I'm kind of bored now. I'm making $50K a month. So my prayers got answered in the form of a legal case. I wanted more. And so I found myself in a legal case with some people that were from my previous life and got into a massive legal situation because I said I wanted more. I just meant more money. Now, the only way I can describe this, and this is a little bit weird, but the only way I can describe how I felt at this time was like I had the mentors around me. If you don't know Harry Potter, this is just a black cloaked figure that sucks the soul out of you, takes all of your happiness out of you, and leaves you with feelings of despair. And the worst case is that it kisses you, and you end up as a fucking vegetable with no soul. I cannot describe the situation I was in anything less than the worst feelings you could ever imagine. Felt like a vegetable, felt like my soul was being ripped out of me, felt like I had no hope. Constant emails from a lawyer, constant emails with police, constant, just the worst thing ever. This was an email from my lawyer. Your costs at the moment are already more than £100,000, which is like $130,000. And this was like in the beginning. So I was like, all right, I'm still closing at this point. 7 calls a day. So in between calls, I'm getting emails like this. Imagine your state. And I'm still working full time. So this bit's a little bit complicated for me to explain to you guys, but when you have something that is pushing you down as much as it possibly can, the only thing that can pull you back up is something so pure and so, I don't even know the way to describe it, just something so beautiful and innocent and divine. Is that what you said? Sublime and divine. And when I was going through this situation, I had to find something inside of myself that was able to combat not only getting emails like these two, but also be closing full time. But I'd said I wanted more. Going back to my Harry Potter analogy. The only thing that can combat this, which is a Dementor, I couldn't think of any other way to describe this, is a Patronus, which is a magical spell that I'm going to describe here, a magical guardian that can be summoned. Primary protection against that which there are no other defenses. Represents that which is hidden and unknown but necessary within you. So there's parts of you that you just don't even know exist. It's very difficult to create this. And you'll never know what it's going to be like or what form it's going to take until you succeed in having to conjure it. And the success of conjuring it is directly reliant on you staying in a state of mental positivity whilst going through the worst shit that you've ever been through in your entire life. And only those who are pure of heart were able to cast it. So, let me explain this story. I got the email from my lawyer, you might go to prison for 4 years, and when you come out, you're going to have a legal bill to pay of probably somewhere around £400,000 or £500,000. And the day I got that email, it was the middle of the summer, and it was like, in degrees C, it was like 27 degrees C. Anybody know what that is in Fahrenheit for those that don't know?
Like 80, 85.
Okay, 80, 85. I am in all black, in a black puffer jacket, because I'm just in the worst state of mind, walking through the town in the middle of the summer, because I'm dealing with all of this. Stand up. Just come over here and walk past me, just that way. And this guy stops me like this, just grabs my arm. You can sit down, thank you. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm in a bad mood. And he's like, hey, can I pray for you? I'm like, fuck is this? He's like, yeah, can I pray for you? I'm in such a bad vegetable state. I'm like, whatever, just fucking whatever. He starts praying for me, out loud, in the middle of the fucking street, in the middle of everybody. And the shit that comes out of his mouth is exactly what I'm going through. And I'm like, heck's going on here? So he prays for me, and I say, who are you? He says, I don't live here. I'm just visiting for a couple days. We saw you the other day at a cafe, and I got a message from Jesus to talk to you. I was like, okay. And he said, but then you walked off, and we didn't have time to grab you. I was like, who's we? He said, my wife's over there with the baby. There's a baby in a pram. And he said, my wife also got a message and said, if we're meant to give you this message, we'll see you again before we leave. 2 days later, they saw me on the street, grabs my arm, tells me the message. So I'm like, what's the message? Well, he tells me all this stuff. You know, we know you're going through a really dark time, and gives me this beautiful prayer. I said, give me some specifics, man. I mean, come on, like fucking, this is just a bit vague, isn't it? So the woman, his wife, who's now stood next to me, says, I got a message from Jesus, and we could see you and what you're going through, and there was 5 sparrows flying through the sky. I was like, 5 sparrows, whatever.
What's a sparrow?
A blackbird. I was like, whatever. Finish talking to him, and off I go. I walk off, I get on the bus to go to my dad's, and I'm reading a book at the time, and I open up the book to the page that I was on, where my bookmark is, and it's Awareness by Anthony DeMello. Turn the page, and on the next page is 5 fucking sparrows written on the next fucking page. Sparrow, 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 sparrow. I'm like, all right, I'm listening. So, over the next months and months and months, I have a ridiculous amount, at least 20 things like this. I'm living in the studio that you'd seen before, and at the bottom of the stairs in the studio is one of those communal letterboxes where everybody has a little letterbox. I've been living in this studio for 2 and a bit years, 3 years, never had a letter in my life. Don't get fucking post. Get a fucking letter in the post. Hi, my name's Francesco, and I'm writing to you because I know you may be struggling, so I wanted to share some help and hope. We live in a world that is very uncertain. You may be facing problems such as unemployment, poverty, injustice, ongoing corona issues, blah, blah, blah. Did you know the Bible promises that God is going to step in and take away all the suffering we face? You may think that God and the Bible are words of fiction, or if God hasn't done anything before, he won't now, and I can understand why you feel either way. I'd love to show you proof that God does exist, that he does care about you personally, and he will step in before it's too late. I was like, I think I'm trying to get a message here. So all of this shit starts happening to me. And cutting a long story short, oh, there's one more. Gets even better. Everywhere I start seeing Archangel Michael. Anybody know who Archangel Michael is? He's the angel of protection. Never seen this guy in my life. Start seeing him everywhere. Wait for the next one. I think I'm trying to get a message here, but go home. Still taking sales calls. Guess who books on my calendar? Oh, fuck, have I not got the photo? Shit. Hang on. I apologize. There's a photo. I'll find it, and I'll show it to you after. Literally, email archangelmichael@gmail.com. Books on my fucking calendar as a closer. You won't believe me until I show you the image, which I'll show you in a minute. I'm like, this is just ridiculous. So anyway, I go through all of these spiritual experiences. I'm going through the worst time of my life, cutting a long story short, come out the other side. But I'm now tapped into something that I'm like, there's something else out there that I can use. And as Viktor Frankl says, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we're challenged to change ourselves. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And so whilst I was going through this time where I'm just feeling beat down and just pressured into the ground, I'm starting to transform from the inside out because I had the choice to either give in or start to believe that there might be something out there that's not just me. And I was like, I'm going to be open-minded. Start reading The Power of Awareness again, which the underground mentor had given me, and I start studying it. When he first gave it to me, I was like, I don't get any of this. This is just fucking cuckoo. And I start getting connected to the fourth dimension. The task determines the resources. So going back to what we were saying about capacity, I didn't need God or the fourth dimension or anything else until I needed that shit in my life. And when I then got through this and now had this connection, we'll get to that in a minute. A catalyst is essentially what this all was for me. Definition there is a substance that enables a chemical reaction to proceed at a usually faster rate or under different conditions than would otherwise be possible. So this whole experience for me was just like this chemical transformation of how I started to show up, which is now I'm not just me, I'm me plus this guardian angel plus whatever God is, and I have access to all of this stuff. So that was the worst experience of my entire life. But the life that you know can only be found on the other side of something that you don't want to go through is the only time that you're going to get connected to any of this fourth dimension. I'm conscious of time, guys, because I've still got another entire section to go. So we might leave that one there, but if you want to write things down quickly, what was a situation that you went through that was a catalyst that increased your capacity? What did you profit from it? What would be different if it hadn't happened? Feel free to write that down quickly if you want to. While that's going on, while you're just writing that down, I'm going to find this picture, because until you see the picture, you think I'm talking nonsense. ArchangelMichael@live.com booked on my sales calendar. I was like, well, that's probably as close as it can get to a message. So I've got the 5 sparrows, I've got the random person on the street stops me in the road, got the letter through my letterbox, hey, God is going to step in, and if you've ever doubted, and then Archangel Michael appears everywhere and books on my Google Calendar. So I'm like, well, I guess I should probably listen to this. And by the way, I was the biggest fucking atheist. I was like, doesn't exist, and you're a fucking idiot if you believe any of that shit. All right. We covered all of that. Soon as I went through this shit, my income went from 50K a month to 100K a month, consistently. It just went 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Just went up and up and up and up and up and up and up. My no-shows went down. I got the best prospects on the phone. I was in flow state all the fucking time. And so we've got another line here. Hyperactivity, productivity, peak performance. We'll get to that bit in a minute. On the other side of all of this, breaking free, a sword to die on, cloning the hero, burning the ship, self-actualization, and tackling the final boss. we arrived to a new reality. So why does our reality change? Give me a response quickly, guys. Why does our reality? Because you change. Anybody else? Huh? Perspective changes. We change. Our perspective changes. Beliefs change. Experience. Anybody ever heard of the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? Colors of the rainbow happen to coincide with the colors here, because this shit is not coincidental, guys. Your identity changes your reality. The concept of yourself is your identity. And to change your reality, you have to change your concept of yourself. I did that through a new opportunity, commitment, cloning the skills of a mentor, choices, control, and increasing my capacity by going through hell.
Josh, this is interesting because I'm sure you've read the book too that talks about For As a Man Thinketh.
Oh yeah.
But that's actually from, like, if you're aware, it's from like the Bible as well.
Ah, okay.
So For As a Man Thinketh, therefore he is.
Yep.
So it's kind of like the identity piece. Like you went through the perspective shift in terms of like who you are, all of the internal things that you had to do. But a key thing that I'm kind of realizing is like, even when you decided like, I'm not sick, that was like, you reframe in your mind, you have a new belief system. I don't get sick.
Yeah.
So now, I don't know what God does to make these things happen, but it's like that spiritual moment that happens in things that we can't even see, right? But then the same thing happens to you, even with Brody's case, he's like, I don't get jet lag.
Right.
So it's kind of like what we're putting on the pre-call checklist every single time. We're putting all of like these belief systems to, like in the Launchpad, we have the omnipotent beliefs, right? These are kind of like the belief systems that we're developing. It's like, I don't get sick. I don't get no shows. I don't get this. So it's very interesting to see like you going through that spiritual moment as well. And then once you went through that, like your income kind of skyrocketed. It's insane. And for somebody that was an atheist.
Yeah.
So,
the biggest atheist. All right, we've all got that down, yeah? To the point where I know this so clearly, it's my footer of my email. To reach a higher level of being, you must assume a higher concept of yourself. That is my email footer. Because nothing is more true than if you want more, you must change your concept of yourself. That's a Neville Goddard quote, by the way. Got that down?
Yep.
Quick. Identity and reality are the same thing. They're just reflections. If you keep trying to change out there, your reality ain't going to change. You have to change you, who you are, how you see yourself, which is by going through this model of transformation that I just took you through. And on the other side of that, I had a new reality. And I'm now in super peak performance. This is just the best that I can be. This is the best that I can be when I'm connected to everything. Doing a lot of shit, not getting anywhere. Starting to get somewhere, but I'm the previous version of myself. Maxed out my current version of myself. Beyond just myself. So what did that look like by going through this? Oh, by the way, this is also connected to levels of consciousness. So there was a dominant emotion that I was feeling in each of these phases. Apathetic, fearful, completely sedated, just asleep. Pride, I'm gonna get fucking rich. I'm doing it. Like, I'm actually making money. You know what? I'm gonna have to make some sacrifices. I need to change. I need to grow. The final boss was I actually felt apathetic. I was being pushed down like the Dementor, and the only thing that could pull me back up was the reciprocal emotion. The only way that I got to this place of pure open-mindedness and love and joy and peace was being pushed all the way down to the apathy here was worse than the fucking apathy over here. This was the holy shit moment where I was like, the worst thing in your life is going to bring out the best version of you.
So where do you go from here? I mean, according to this graph, it looks like you arrived, so I'm just...
Well, that's a great question. You still go back through, like needing to recreate a new sword to die on, like a new version of this whole transformation. It's cyclical. I can't remember the exact times, but I think it's every 10 years. They say you go through this. Like that's as a man, I don't know as a woman, but as a man, they say that you go through it's like the cycles of the moon and stuff like that. You go through this cycle every 7 to 10 years. And this was about, what's that? Is that what it's called? I didn't know that. Yeah, I learned the fact about the cycles actually from a guy called Elliot Hulse. And like every 10 years, you find yourself back in this place where you're like stuck again, needing to recommit, needing to relearn. But it's a new thing. It's like a job, like if you're a policeman, before policeman, I'm going to be a policeman. I'm copying the best policeman. I've got sacrifices to make. Now I'm the best policeman. And then 10 years later, you're like, no, I want to be an engineer. You start all the way over again. Yeah? So for me, I'm kind of going through, probably all of it to be honest, but this one, not really this one, and this one now as a mentor, not as a closer, but now I'm like, I need to, really be copying people that public speak. This is new to me. It's the first time I've ever stood up here and done a standing presentation. So yeah, you basically just go through the whole thing all over again. And for me now, coming back through this, my only job right now is taking you guys through this. Because bearer of bad news, you ain't gonna fucking make any money if you don't go through this. Which is why when you were saying, you're like, I don't really know what I'm burning. Well, then you'll get, the number might not be the same number, but you'll get stuck here. That's why the arrow here is showing that each of these leaps is going through each of these transformations, and they're actually emotional transformations. I think I've got the picture. No, it's at the end of the presentation. But anyway, my new reality, just so you guys can see kind of what it looks like. I went from stuck on a tiny island to traveling the world, Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Dubai, LA, Miami, Mexico. Previously, I was just stuck in a fucking hole with 100,000 people. Going with my best friend to Disney. You see I like Harry Potter. This is us breaking through our personal limitations on a roller coaster. But in all seriousness, guys, like, not only did I get to go and travel to these places with my best friend, I got him into sales. And the only reason that he's here in a lot of these pictures with me is because I got him into this journey as well. And this was one of my most enjoyable experiences. We went to Universal, we went on all the rides, we had a blast. Previously, well, the picture's there anyway, I was just sat on a fucking island, doing nothing with my life, bored. I went from living in this to living in this.
Another day surfing.
Excuse the audio, but.
Look at this. Heaven on earth. Do that. Live the life of your dreams.
So I went from living in that shitbox to this. Went from writing with this pen to writing with this, which, by the way, I brought with me so you guys can all feel, because you just pass it around, don't drop it, and you have to unscrew it. But just feel how it feels to write with that. And why did I buy that pen? Because I wanted to. Because I like writing. You've seen how much I study and write. If I write, I want to write with a fucking expensive pen. Because I've been through the shit. I'm not like I'm just going to buy an expensive pen because I'm closing 20K a month. I went through hell and back. So damn right I'm going to fucking buy an expensive pen. It gets better, though, than this. That's not my actual previous bank account, but I just wanted to demonstrate that I was in the negative. That's not my actual bank account. But in the past, I used to have no money. This is a conversation with my mum, and I'm going to play some audio messages that are pretty emotional. My mum and I didn't see each other for 7 years. That's another story, but long story short, my mum and stepdad got divorced, and everybody was picking sides, and it was all a bit of a shit show. And so my mum and I and my sister, I didn't see my mum or my sister for like 7 years, from like 22 to 29. Reconnected with my mum after I went through all of this shit, said to my mum, I'm going to book us a cruise. We're going in 1 week. It's next week. My mum said, I don't have any money. I said, somewhere along here, just book everything. Put all the excursions on, book whatever you want, whatever room you want. My mum replied, you made me cry. I said, what made you cry? Some other stuff there. But anyway, long story short, I booked a cruise for my mum, my sister, me, 15 grand. because I can, because I want to. This doesn't really mean that much, the messages, but listen to the emotions in my mum.
Oh, Josh, it's just, when I hear you say, like, it's a once in a lifetime trip, I couldn't have dreamt of doing this. You know, I just, yeah, I'm just, dear. Yeah. I honestly just feel absolutely overwhelmed with emotion. Yeah, as you can hear, I'm loving my baby. I just feel so grateful, so happy, so excited. I can't wait to spend proper time with you and enjoy the things in the evening and enjoy food. And I know you've got work and stuff to do as well, but I just can't wait. Honestly, I'm just overwhelmed, Josh.
Last one.
I just mean, Josh, that, you know, for so long I didn't see you, and I just dreamt that something like this would happen. And just feel like I missed out on so much time with you. And then when I got my cancer diagnosis, I was like, oh shit, I've got no memories of doing stuff with you as grown-ups. And yeah, I just can't believe it, Josh. And I just can't believe that, you know, you've been so amazing paying for it. And yeah, I haven't even months away and I'm already like this. I just can't believe it, Josh.
All right, I'll try and compose myself. So you heard my mum mention about cancer. When my mum got cancer, there's not really much treatments that you can do with cancer that are guaranteed to do anything. But because of this journey that I'd been on and my connection with God and learning to manifest things, oh, that's another story there, but
Josh, late enough.
I taught my mum everything I knew about manifesting and God and told her to go to bed every night imagining the message from the doctor saying that it's all gone.
Josh, late last night, I had a phone call and a message from my surgeon. My manifesting works, it's all gone. I don't have to have any more treatment, Josh. I've got to have some checkups and stuff like that. But yeah, it's all gone. I just can't even tell you how happy I am and how relieved I am. It's been a long wait getting these results. It's been just over 2 weeks. So yeah, a long wait, but I'm just thrilled. You know, I tried so hard to manifest and only think about how I was going to feel when that phone call came, and yeah, so I'm absolutely thrilled. So I hope you get this message when you wake up, and sending you lots of love. So your strong redhead mum lives to fight another day. Onwards and upwards. Hope things are okay for you at home. Send me a little message when you get a chance to let me know. Lots of love, Josh. Bye.
So I went from the guy that was doing drugs on the left to being able to get my mum to heal cancer. And that's because everything that I've taught you is based on this, which is to move from force here to power. You have to transform yourself. And you have to go through all of the stuff that I took you through. There was some more things at the back there that was my sister.
I just mean, Josh, that...
We don't need to hear that again. My sister wanted to go travel South America, which is here, and she has no money because she's a young person, just finding her way, making $1,000 a month. And she said, my trip is going to come to 14,000 pounds, which is like 20,000 or something. 20,000 or something. And so I said, well, if you work hard, I'll pay whatever you don't cover. And I think she made like 5,000 pounds, and so I gave her the other 15,000. The message on the right is her saying, thank you. It's a little bit more detailed than just thank you, because I actually told her I don't think you should go traveling. I think you should get a job, a real job. But despite that, I said, if that's what you want to do, I'll give you the money. So she said there, sticking by my choices, even though you wouldn't make the same ones, is all I can ask of a big brother. And all your support and advice is always appreciated. Very excited for our cruise next month with me and Mum. Lots of love. So I went from being the doorman at the nightclub to training Hormozi's team at gym launch, running the UCM, and then we had the one about cancer there at the end, and so that's me finished. So that's the final thing for you guys. You know, the best version of yourself is all you should be striving for. And the size of your life experience, whether it's cruise ship holidays, living in a bigger house, or potentially being able to do things like I did with my mum, it's all a direct reflection of the concept that you have of yourself. And to change your concept of yourself, you have to transform from the ground up. So, yeah. All right. Thank you.